So presenting the indigenous model of counseling from an African perspective. And the idea is that this indigenous model of counseling can be integrated, can also be taught and become part of our school curriculum, higher education. So the background comes from the fact that African perspective to counseling abounds in the rich culture of the African people, the indigenous knowledge that we have. And the issue is that, of the concern is that this indigenous knowledge is often orally transmitted. Thus, the custodians are always the elders in the community. But again, like education becomes key to knowledge, educators too can be considered as elders, having passed through the experience of being trained. And so here we are saying that the counseling is indigenous to Africa because counseling originated or can be related to storytelling, narratives, folk tales, and myths. And to be very sincere, that is the way an African person or even individuals make sense of who they are. Is in storytelling.
Chica, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Let me stop you there. Because we have a Spanish speaking attendees and they might need the English translation. Gabriela, ¿cómo estás, Gabriela? Silvia, ¿cómo están? Silvia y Gabriela, ¿ustedes están entendiendo a Chica?
No todo, pero un poco sí.
Sí. Entonces lo que voy a hacer es que le voy a poner, voy a colocar el PowerPoint que Chica está utilizando para que tengan el visual. La parte visual.
Muchas gracias.
Ok, Chica.
Slower.
Slow, Chica, slow, sweet and slow. Keep it up.
Okay, sweet and slow. Okay then.
Yes,
right,
Chica, I appreciate the fact that there are persons from Latin America who do not really speak English so much. So you need to break it down slowly, but consistently, so that all of us can follow, including myself.
All right then, no problem.
Yes.
So do I have to start all over again?
Yes. Start over again, slowly.
Okay. Well, I start again, and I'm saying that I'm presenting the indigenous model of counseling from an African perspective. Already my name is there, and I'm not working alone. I'm working with a team of other Nigerian presenters. But I lecture at the Catholic University of Nigeria from the educational department. And so the background for this presentation is the fact that African perspective to counseling can be located is in the rich culture of African indigenous knowledge system. And what does it mean? African's worldview. How an African person makes sense of who he or she is in the daily mundane activities. So this is what is there. So that in that sense, making counseling a context-bound activity. And this indigenous knowledge is often transmitted orally. And who are the ones who transmit them? Of course, in the culture, in the day-to-day activity, the custodians are always the elders in the community. But we will also like to emphasize that, well, it's not just only elders in those who are old. Educators who have experience, training, and development could also be considered as elders who transmit this knowledge. And so, from that point of view, we are saying that counseling is not strange to an African person. It is indigenous to an African person. Why? Because counseling is transmitted through storytelling. And this storytelling is in form of narratives, is in form of folktales, is in form of myths. And how does it come? If some of the practices that you can, pull out the counseling storytelling is in marriage stories, naming ceremonies, initiation ceremonies, even sometimes in rituals, in rite of passage when somebody has passed on, when people are grieving, when they are bereaved, when there is a trauma, and even sometimes in taboos, the do's and don'ts of the society, of the culture, of the community, communicate a way of counseling. And actually, the line here is a fact that it is embedded in the fact of making everyone be able to reach the peak of who they are, use their potential to their maximum. And so we might also ask, who are the prominent people who channel the transmission of counseling in a traditional African society, saying that the prominent persons or the institutions that transmit it most is the family. Because in Africa, the family is the hub or the citadel of civilization. Why it is civilizing its member, it is in one way or the other, helping them, directing them, steering them, piloting their affairs, steering their affairs so that they don't go the wrong way, if there's anything like that, so that they will develop normally. And also in that aspect, prevent any mishap. And should any mishap happen, they also do what? Correct it. And so in that sense, we can see the different arms of counseling coming in. So the family is there. And who are in the family? The mother, the father, the grandparents, the siblings, aunties, uncles, age group, can name them. All of these, even friends. The age group, actually, age group, we can see it today as what we call your peers. I know that peer counseling is also something that modern day counseling also strive in. And so apart from the immediate family, you go to the extended family. And then from the extended family, you can think about the kindred or the clan. And then we think about religious people, the priests and the priestess, the imams, because also in Africa is also people who are of other belief system like Islam or Muslim. Then we have the traditional healers, the church members, and all of that. So this is just a picture of what a traditional African setting looks like. The other side of it, you have the male folk, the other side of it, have the male and the female folk mixed together. So we might want to explore, if we are thinking about integrating this African indigenous way of counseling, what are its canons? What are its concepts, its precepts? So it is a switch in the African philosophical concept of maintaining peace and harmony. Because for the African person, peace and harmony is very vital. And how do we achieve such? It is through solidarity, interdependency, support and care, communal coexistence. Because for an African person would always think of the other. Why? Because an African person believes that without the other, I am not complete. So if the other is not happy, is not okay, I am equally not okay. So that is what the African counseling approach, looks at, watch out for, or try to inaugurate. And in that sense, there is respect. You just have to respect the other. Then and this respect, again, if you take it any angle of it, it is respect of the human person, it is respect of the earth, it is respect of the atmosphere, it is respect. So, and then also in celebration of life, because when people are born, we celebrate them. Even when people die, especially when they die in old age, an African community would always celebrate a life well lived. It's a life of celebration. So, and again, it's also in preservation of life, respect for the sacredness of life, because we respect life for what it is, knowing that we do not create it and we cannot create it. It's also connectivity with the ancestors. The African person always believes that there is a constant association, relationship, link between the existing human being, and our ancestors, our loved ones, our dear ones who have passed on. It doesn't matter whether they are old or not, but they have lived and they have gone far beyond. So there is always an interconnectivity. And also the Africans believe in God. I mean, as much as Christianity came to bring us believe in one God, Africans always believe in God, which many of African writers, for example, Chinua Achebe has strongly affirmed in his writing when he talks about everyone have a personal God. And then we also have the big God that guides the whole family, the whole community. But there is also that personal God of yours that takes care of you. And we want to look at, or we are looking at, what is the epic center of the African Council? If we are bringing this, what does it offer? And what it offers is that it brings about the care for one another. The care for one another. And this care for one another is like when we talk about helping one another, helping the counselor, helping the client. But in this case, probably it is more of a collective care. And of course, the individual care is not removed because it's one drop of individual care that brings up about the collective care. And of course, in this sense, it becomes like you are a person through others. Again, it is re-emphasized, like in the pedagogy, we say repetition makes learning intensified. So it is that kind of fact that you are not complete. You are incomplete without the other. So, and that brings out that spirit of Ubuntu. I am because we are. And since we are, therefore I am. The way that Mbeti has put it. You know, that is that spirit of Ubuntu. Caring for one another, looking out for one another, watching out for one another, providing a shoulder for everyone to lean on. Therefore, we are incomplete without the other. And some examples of these African counseling canons or practices or types can be seen in Omunna. And Omunna, I'm going to single that out as something I'll deliberate more on. It is talking about children who are of one father. Then Umuada age group, Umuada is also daughters who are of the same origin. Then we are thinking about age group, like I have said earlier, it's like peer group. And then, of course, the masquerading, because masquerading, as much as it is terrifying, is also brings about a sense of social cohesion, which in one way or the other kind of attributes or affirms counseling. And then we have the traditional healers, because African person, no matter whatever, and in most cases, 85% of us or more than that can always or will always go to a traditional healer to seek resolution for issues, whether it's mental health, whether it is physical health, whatever kind of health issue that the person may have. So this canon. So in this canon, the emphasis is laid on the fact of Umunna and its possible application to counseling. The term Umunna is an Igbo word. Igbo people are found in the southeastern Nigeria, and this is a combination of two nouns, Umu referring to children, and Nna referring to or meaning father. Therefore, in Igbo land, the Nna of the house marries many wives, usually, maybe no longer as it is today, because today with Christianity and everything, we also preach about one man, one wife. But traditionally, the Nna is allowed to marry many wives as much as he believes he could take care of or maintain. And still again, in this sense, the more wives one gets married to normally results to more children. So the more you have, the more wives you have, the more children you have. And in one way or the other, the ability to be able to marry many wives, take care of them, provide for them, makes you prestigious. And you are considered as no reckoned with. Like in Moye's theory, when he was trying to describe the aspect of an African sense of self, says that this falls under the generative self. And here, what he's trying to say is that industrial self. It is that industrial sense of self of an African person, which of course is reckoned with, because no one in an African setting wants to be seen as unindustrious. We want to be doing something. Even what we are doing is small, but do something and do it best to their ability. And so the Umunna can be seen as a patrilineal comprising of children, or a patrilineal ideology comprising of children of a particular male line who is a founding ancestor. And what does it mean? It's always headed by the eldest male in the patrilineage, generally called the Diokba, or in short form, Diokbala. And literally it means the firstborn child in a family. And Umuna is mostly important. It's important pillar in Igbo traditional society. It's something that is of great recognition for the Igbo persons. And in spite of its origin and literal meaning, the word Umuna has been extended to have extended implications whereby it can be stretched
We lost Chica connection. Chica? Chica? En el chat se está colocando la versión en español de la presentación de Chica. Pero hemos perdido a Chica. Oyasibut, Chica is
I
lost.
think it's a problem. It's network. Give us
It's network,
2 minutes.
but 2 minutes. But Onye is here to complement it. We are here. Let me. I know maybe it's network because she's still here. The video is on, but I think he has a problem with the speaker. Let me assume it's
But if she can't come on, Oniye can continue from there.
Onye, oh yeah, Onye continue now.
Professor Oniye, please continue.
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah. So what we are trying to say is that when you look at the African counseling perspective, now the whole thing is centered on the family network, the role the family can play in the therapeutic session. That is one of the things we are talking about. The next slide. Next slide.
Vera? Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So there is this strong belief among Africans that we have the same father, and therefore we do a lot of things together. And by this, it is both religious and paternal duty that, yes, whatever we want to do, there is a kind of collectivity in what we do. The individual is not so much concerned about himself, but about the wellness or well-being of the other. And so you can see in the principle that live and let's live. This is what is the driving force behind our interaction. And whatever we want to do, this is likely to influence the way we do our things. Next slide. So the African perspective of counseling using the family connectivity can actually be addressed. Whatever theory we are going to use is going to address issues like health, economy, religion, education, social, and mental health, these are the areas the family intervention will normally cover. If somebody is sick, if somebody is not feeling well, the family want to attend to that. If somebody is having financial problem, maybe business, the family also want to come in to say, this is how you can go about it. Spiritual, religion, maybe somebody is depressed, is having emotional issues. The family will want to rally around to say, this is how you can go about it. Education is key to the African people. And so part of what the family want to do is to provide education. For example, the choice of school to be attended, the choice of who would train a child is central. And then the expanded slide, you have social, the choice of who to marry, from which family you can marry, what type of person you can marry. In some culture, you have people, they will say you cannot marry because according to culture, these people are not acceptable. It is part of what the family will come in to say, this is how to go about. And then, governance, politics. These are all areas the family network would normally have something to say. And so in African context, we cannot have any counseling that doesn't actually address any of this. It will be incomplete. Next slide. So when we look at the umuna, it's both type of counseling and it's also technique because it's all encompassing. It talks about counseling types. You can talk about areas of counseling, and you can also talk about the techniques they are going to use. So in this one, it's a process of healing that encompasses the use of traditional approach, traditional health care. When people are sick, they require personal intervention, family, community, the native doctor, they will do their things to try to make sure they provide healing, they provide guidance, they provide support for the individual in order to get what you can call health counseling, what you can call social, what you can call economic, what you can call political or spiritual. Next slide. So when we look at the umuna, it is therapeutic in nature because it's psychotherapy involved in intervening activity, because most of the things they do, it involves the use of the processes or procedure by the traditional healers. And then the umuna is psychotherapy because it treats with respect and acceptance of the client. And this is related to what you call the unconditional positive regard, acceptance of the client for who he or she is. Then this is also rooted in the belief system of the African person, the belief in predestination, belief in the belief system which is rooted in the religious belief of the people. And in matters of intervention and faith healing, this umuna is also very, very relevant, because here people want to talk about what can actually be done, what type of approach, what type of healing process they want to put in place. And this we'll talk about, this we can relate to when we talk about using some techniques or using some psychotherapy intervention to actually address areas of concern of the client. Next slide. Let us take a particular example here. What the Igbo considers as psychopathology is mental condition that will naturally not allow the individual involved to express his or her faith based on the fact that the said individual is no longer in full control. So when somebody is having a kind of emotional issue or psychological breakdown, which he or she could not handle alone, normally, even in the Western world, such a person would need attention of the therapist. In the same context, within the African setting, if somebody is depressed, is emotionally down, or is not totally in control, it is assumed that at that point, such a person will require the services of either the family member who will come in to offer support, where their own support is not efficacious enough, then they might have to refer the person to maybe council of elder who will want to provide solution. If that is also not achieving the desired result, the family could resolve to referral, where the individual at this point would be referred to traditional healer or clergymen. Clergymen here could be the pastor, could be the imam, could be the priest. These people, using combination of prayer, suggestion, advice, and encouragement, will actually want to find solution to whatever concern an individual is dealing with. Next slide. So how is the counseling process done? At this level, it is done via identification. What is actually the concern of the individual? They want to narrow down. Is it financial? Is it biological issue? Is it health? Is it social? Then the next thing would be to diagnose. Diagnosis, they want to find out. No, bring back the slide, please. Previous slide. No, no, no. Yes, this slide. So the next thing they want to do is to diagnose the problem. What is the nature? Is it a personal problem? Is it a problem that has to do with the person's spirit? Is it a problem that has to do with the person's behavior? Then the next thing is resolution. This resolution is by way of saying, this is actually what we can pin out, and this is the approach we are going to adopt, whether it's going to be in form of prayer, whether it's going to be in form of advice, whether it's going to be in form of suggestion. This one is the next. Then, of course, management is the therapeutic process to see that the individual is actually following the laid down procedure. If it is prayer, is the person praying? If it is following suggestion, is the individual following that suggestion? If it is a combination, sometimes they could even prescribe fasting, asking somebody to pray and fast. In some cases, they might prepare some things to give the individual for those who believe in the traditional healers. And then after this is a follow-up by way of asking questions. Are you doing what has been agreed on? And then, of course, the last stage in that one will be for the person or the family to provide the feedback so that it's like it's a kind of opportunity for assessment to know whether the therapeutic process or the intervention package is actually achieving the desired results. Next slide. So when we now look at this in association with modern day counseling, we can see that the African perspective of counseling covers the three main areas. The first one is that it is developmental in nature. It is developing along the line of the concern people have. It is also preventive in the sense that it could actually suggest steps to be taken to make sure certain things do not happen. For example, if it is perceived that the way an individual is going, the business will be affected, suggestion could be made to say, these are the things you should do to make sure that your business is not destroyed. If it is choice of partner, in African setting, steps could be taken to find out from which family do you want to marry, so that when you marry, you are not going to have problem. However, for those who have challenges, concerns that have gone beyond the preventive, it is also curative in the sense that they provide intervention in form of prayer, intervention in form of fasting, intervention in form of suggestion, intervention in form of collective support in order to help the individual overcome his or her challenges. One thing we want to say here is that when you look at the African perspective of counseling and approaches, you want to realize that it's largely context-bound. It depends on the need. There is no fit-all approach for everybody and every challenge or concern that an African person is contending with. Whatever it is challenge, whatever is the concern, that exactly is what the approach will be modified to fit in or address. Next slide. Next slide. Furthermore, it talks or addresses issues that borders on ethics, respect for the clients, respect for the concern of the clients. And of course, there is a large dosage of empathy in whatever is being done because of the live and let live spirit. The African perspective of counseling does not look at the individual who is having a concern as being alone. There is empathy that can even go as much as saying they have sympathy. And of course, it also have very good consideration for unconditional positive regard, because it is assumed, given especially the concept of predestination, that an individual could have done everything, but then could be a victim of destiny. And therefore, instead of rejoicing or reprimanding or condemning, there is that tendency of actually giving an individual unconditional positive regard. And of course, there is that understanding that whatever an individual is experiencing, there is an underlying sense of understanding among the family member, among the clergymen, among the priests who are interfacing with the individual in order to help him or her overcome his or her challenges. One major challenge here, however, which may be contrary to modern counseling, is the issue of confidentiality, because unlike where you have one-to-one interaction in the modern counseling setting, because you have to involve council of elder, because you have to involve the umuna or umada, or because you have to involve the clergy, some element of confidentiality is likely to be breached. Though even in while involving these people, there is implied or expressed discussion about confidentiality, about whatever being said, being kept within the people who are involved. And it
We lost our speaker.
hello,
Yeah, it's going
still
back.
together?
Yeah.
Okay.
Going.
So I was saying that the issue here is about confidentiality because of the number of people who are likely to be involved, but notwithstanding their involvement, it is also said at the beginning or in the process of the therapeutic session that confidentiality should be ensured in order to give the individual who is having the concern the ability or the mindset to open up, to actually make reasonable self-disclosure. However, we, for now, seems to have challenge in the area of published research or material that has actually documented this African perspective of counseling. Next slide. Next slide. In conclusion, we want to say that when we look at the Umuna structure or practice, it should be integrated into counseling of Africans, particularly in this context. We are talking of the Igbo of Southeastern, but we could always adopt and adapt its equivalent in other regions of Nigeria that will fit in the religious belief, the belief system, and the slight differences in our people's perception of life, their belief about destiny, and their belief about family. We also want to say at this juncture that research and publication should be intensified. And we are saying we will need to intensify research and publication in order to actually bring out the knowledge and application of African perspective of counseling. It is also our belief that the higher education curriculum could be adapted or modified to actually incorporate this African perspective of counseling. We want to say finally that this is an ongoing project, and we are open to suggestion from colleagues in Nigeria and from our partner in Latin America. I want to thank you for this opportunity. My colleagues can actually take off from here.
Thank you, Dr. Adrusat. All right.
I have a comment, George, please.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, George. I have two comments.
Okay, so now, Amilca, so we can go and go to Relapro, and you want to start with a video?
No, wait a minute, please. Wait a minute. I just have a comment about this presentation.
You want to share comments? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, okay. First of all, I want to share for this presentation, this very interesting presentation. And I want to congratulate you because I see the clear of this model. I have two comments. The first one is uh, that this model is very similar to some culture, some traditional culture of Colombia. George know something about the cultura Wayuu, the Wayuu culture, and I may share at the chat a video that is very recently about uh, actual counselors in this region. Just for another occasion, if you can, to see this video. Another comment is about the research. You say something about the lack of research. This is the reason because we are sharing with you in this moment research about what are the most important aspects that you think are necessary to apply in African counseling. Yes, I wrote these comments. That's all. Thank you.
All
That's
right.
all for now.
So should we go then to our Relapro teams?
Let me quickly make this comment.
Go ahead,
George, as a repair, George, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry, you're gonna have some background noise because close to my house here, there's a church. They're preparing for tomorrow's sermon, so you're gonna have some background noise. No, let me quickly respond to what Amika has said. Yes, there is depth of research with regards to indigenous counseling in Nigeria or largely in Africa, or let me use the word, it's still evolving. It's still evolving. And that is, like I said, that is the reason why this collaboration would be of great importance to both Latin America and to Africa. I know very sure that Maximus will be speaking about Ubuntu, and when our speakers were talking today, they also made reference to Ubuntu. I'm thinking that even within Africa, both the Umuna and the Ubuntu could be modified and brought together as a perspective to greater understanding of counseling in Africa, and also be able to tap from the experience of Latin America for us to actually have something that is unique to us, different from what the Western world tries to make us to understand about counseling. And that is my thinking, and that is why we are here.
Thank you, Professor Yasibu.
Ayúdenos con la traducción, George, por favor.
Sí, el profesor Yasibu estaba conversando que sí hay unas áreas de investigación y se está trabajando en eso, y que hay una diferencia entre en varias regiones de África desde la perspectiva que ellos la están desarrollando, ¿no? Que hay varias perspectivas. Y claro, y están aquí precisamente para intercambiar y ver cómo se puede colaborar en el continuo desarrollo pues, del counseling, ¿no? Y de la orientación. Esa es un poco la aclaratoria que le estaba ofreciendo.
Gracias, George.
I got what you say, Yasibu. I think. Amilca, creo tiempo para que hagamos el cambio hacia Relapro.
Sí.
Entonces, ¿empezamos con el video, Amilca?
No, George. Espera un momentico. Primero quiero presentarles a los colaboradores del equipo de Relapro que nos acompañan. En esta ocasión, la licenciada Gabriela Vázquez de Argentina y nuestro gran amigo Max Foto de Sudáfrica. Gabriela Vázquez es nuestra directora de Asuntos Académicos, que ella va a comentar el modelo Ubuntu que va a presentar Max Cefoto a continuación. Después de esto, yo presentaré un video que resume el modelo latinoamericano de orientación transicional. Entonces, a continuación, vamos a escuchar a Max. Yo les voy a compartir la bio de Gabriela para ganar un poco de tiempo y la de Max, y continuamos entonces con Max Cefoto.
Okay, so we're gonna go into Relapro presentation. Relapro members, Max and Gabriela, are gonna be the speakers. And in the chat, you're gonna find summary of Gabriela bio. Okay, Max, the floor is yours.
Yes. Do you have my presentation or shall I show it myself?
Yeah, I don't have it, so you can show by yourself.
Okay. Then let me see.
Go to share your screen, look for the green button.
Can you all see now?
Yes, Max, can you send it to me so I can, Alfonso can put it into Spanish in the chat?
Amilcar has a copy.
I have it in Spanish. I'm copying this information at the chat. Don't worry.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. So we are good.
All right. Okay. Fine. Thank you so very much, and thank you for the brothers and sisters from Nigeria for their very detailed and well-informed presentation. I would like to present what I'm calling in search of an Ubuntu model of counseling. Let me replace career development with counseling and say that the background to this presentation is that we are not looking only at ourselves in South Africa, but we are trying to look at the Bantu-speaking people who, as it were, according to this map, you know, are all the people who are in the shaded blue. And as it is, it's many, many people that are found in Africa. And it goes all the way from up there to where we are in South Africa. And even in terms of languages, there are so many similarities that one can pick up as we listen to how people are speaking. My Nigerian friends were talking about the Igbo, and this is also part of, you know, the languages that we find all across Africa, way down to South Africa. Yes, there will be differences here and there, but for us, the Ubuntu model, which I'll disclose later on, the name that we want to give, you know, takes care of all the cultures, all the languages, because it says, if we are brothers in Africa, we have to have a way of looking at the situation. As this earlier speaker said, oral tradition is very strong. I'm not going to dwell on it because I want to contract my presentation so that I give an opportunity for the American colleagues. We look at this model as based on the philosophy of Ubuntu. And what is this philosophy of Ubuntu? As you can see here, my colleagues also from Nigeria are talking, you know, remnants of Ubuntu. They are talking something about Ubuntu. And we see it as having distinctive characteristics as a philosophy, as African humanism, as ethics, but most importantly, as a worldview. And as a worldview, it is very, very critical because then it says to us, how as the Bantu people, the people of Africa, do we look at reality? And this researcher, Washington, unpacked the meaning of Ubuntu for us in that, like the Umunna that we have heard from brothers and sisters, it also has the Ndu and force. I think when I was listening to their presentation, I was feeling that the details that they are talking about need to be fitted in model to be what it ought to be. So again, we have issues of Ubuntu as alluding to being, while this universal life force becomes critical and important. And this also includes things, forces, but also including the human being, then the spirit, time and place, and the spirit, the things, and the spirit in modality and expressiveness. That's why the oral tradition for us has been very, very important. We are told of the Osani people, of this tribe of the Osani. I think they are from the Congo, if I'm not mistaken. But the expression of what Ubuntu is, from their perspective, is that these children, we are told, the tale says that they were asked by an anthropologist to go and take some goodies, and they should run so that anyone who is left behind cannot find anything. But these children held hands and walked together. And when this man asked them, why do you do this? The children said, well, for us, it is important that each one is taken care of. That's the care that my brothers were talking about. And if I can get the goodies for myself, then it means there is no Ubuntu, because I am, because we are, all of us. And the important part of this essence of Ubuntu is that everyone counts. The individuals are important, but everyone counts. Now, Professor Ramos says that Ubuntu is the root of the African philosophy, and the being of an African in the universe is inseparable, and it is anchored upon Ubuntu. These are very powerful words that say to us, this philosophy is not only, as many people would want to claim it, South African. No, it is African. It is universal. That universal force that we are talking about speaks of humanity, speaks of the human being. And he says, similarly, the tree of knowledge stems from Ubuntu, in which it is connected indivisibly. And that Ubuntu then is a wellspring flowing with African ontology and epistemology. These are critical, these are important. And I like what the chairperson spoke about, that it's not that we are denying the existence of the Euro-Western kind of ontologies, epistemologies, realities, theories, skills that we have learned from them. No, that is not the idea. The idea is to embrace all of that within Ubuntu, because Ubuntu is inclusive. I will skip this, but what I wanted to share quickly was that we are at the point now where we are trying to reclaim Ubuntu for the betterment of humanity. And the importance of this cannot be overemphasized. Now, what is this Ubuntu paradigm that we are flagging? One of our African daughters, Professor Ndiri Teresa, she's now, she is from Cote d'Ivoire, but she's now a visiting professor at the University of Johannesburg. Proudly, we have her there to share knowledge. This is the person who has, as my brother was saying, researched the aspect of Ubuntu as a paradigm. And according to her, the Ubuntu paradigm is articulated as an alternative framework for defining relations across the borders, but emphasizing the local and the global. That's why I said it is important to recognize that Ubuntu is not local. Ubuntu is global. And therefore, whatever is happening, whatever theories we have, we have to look at them from this perspective to say the local context is critical and important, as well as the global context. So we cannot have an opportunity of saying we are rejecting other people, but we are saying, all of us, that we want to see humanity as one. We are reminded of the possibilities of growth by the same author who says, you know, the idea of the Sankofa bird, which is known to fly forward, but looking backwards because it is having this egg in its mouth, which says, while we are going forward, we are looking back, and that looking back also takes us to the future, because we are saying Ubuntu is not an old tradition. Ubuntu is a way of life of yesteryear, but also of today, which we have to resuscitate, that we allow it the space to be expressed for what it is. Now, as a universal paradigm, we're saying that Ubuntu is about inclusion, not about exclusion. And therefore, the issues of Ubuntu epistemology, Ubuntu axiology, and Ubuntu ontology become critical and important. These are the aspects that we have heard from the previous speakers, but these philosophical assumptions are critical for us because we need to now understand the nature of Ubuntu social reality. We need to understand how, as Africans, as the Bantu people, our ways of knowing. We only mentioned one, the oral tradition, but could there be others which we should use in the model to feed into research, to take back into the classroom, to say our learners now, do they know the African canons of research, which are there, which have been researched by our forefathers, but have been subjugated because of the antecedents of what has happened. And that the ethics also and the value systems in terms of axiology become critical and important. As Africans, we know that respect is at the center of our humanity, and we should look at it as such. Because of being in the field of career psychology in South Africa, we looked at the fact that the origins, growth, and transition of psychology in South Africa draw heavily on the main sources, two main sources. These sources, if we look at them, European, American, we can name it. This we cannot deny, but we also cannot, throw out the baby with the bathwater. But we are saying, how do we embrace these while we optimize our own ontologies, our own epistemologies, our own indigenous knowledge systems? And therefore, the challenges that we are facing currently is that because of the nature of where South Africa has been throughout history, we are faced with the transformative efforts that need to be injected into the field of psychology. I'm talking here not only even career, counseling only, but career psychology as a whole. These are the nuances and the differences that we will see between our brothers and sisters in Nigeria and ourselves, because the models are different. However, we want to have a model that will allow each one of us space to be able to express themselves. And therefore, as the earlier speaker said, the postmodern approaches are found to be critical, interesting, and relevant also, because they look at the personal, the historical, and the cultural context. The person who I'm referencing here is one of the gurus in the field of educational psychology, you name it, career psychology, all of those. And what he says is that the African model should be benchmarking on the narrative counseling, which our brothers are saying, this is not anything new. It has been there in Africa. But how do we harness the nuances of this richness so that it becomes meaningful? So he says that African society, for example, with a strong focus on the group, storytelling, and Ubuntu, here we are again, de facto natural resources African context, is ideally suited to a narrative approach. We don't want to be seen to be talking of only a model that is relevant to Basotho, not relevant to the Zulus, not because we are taking an approach that is driven by the principles of diversity. And here we are suggesting an Ubuntu cosmic, let me say, model of counseling instead of career development. As I said, this is the field in which I'm working, but we can say Ubuntu cosmic career development model, where the theories should be African theories, where practice should be practice that is context specific to Africa. And here we are looking at issues of equity. The three aspects of ontology, of epistemology, and of axiology that I referred to earlier have a very profound meaning in that. If we have, for instance, a look at the models that we are applying, are these models equitable in a sense that which theories are dominating the field? What practice is dominating the field? And therefore, we want to have a model that will strive towards equity, and then there is the redress of the ills that have been otherwise apportioned to our people through, one could say, theories and practices which have not been relevant to our contexts, and therefore allow our African people access. The issue of access is critical. Why am I talking access? In South Africa, for example, the most marginalized people do not have access to counseling because counseling is paid for. When my brothers and sisters are talking about, referring people to traditional healers, to imanis and healers and other people, one is asking oneself, is this model based on the economically driven model that says you have to pay for this service? And if at all we are saying this is a model that strives to create equity, does equity mean that people do not have to pay for services? So these are the aspects that we have to grapple with in order to find a model that will benefit the majority of the most marginalized people of our contexts, especially in Africa, where we are saying we are striving towards a model that will be accessible to everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, right now, we are living in a very cruel world where everyone is striving, is grappling for resources for their own survival. Is that now still Ubuntu? And if we are talking Ubuntu, can we share in a way that we take care of those who need the most, so that whatever models we are talking about models that are inclusive? Ladies and gentlemen, as I said, I don't want to take long time. This is my presentation, and I will wait to hear from my colleagues. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Max. En función del tiempo, permíteme, George, vamos a presentar los comentarios que tiene Silvia Gabriela Vázquez. Ella es psicopedagoga, escritora y maestranda en educación, directora de la Cátedra de Responsabilidad Social Universitaria de la UDEM de Argentina, directora de la Diplomatura Interdisciplinaria, y entre las cosas que resaltamos y por lo cual le hemos invitado especialmente es que es embajadora de paz y líder en el entrenamiento del modelo Ubuntu. Entonces, si me están escuchando, George,
yes, Amir.
Vamos
yes.
a darle paso, por favor, a Silvia Gabriela.
Yes, Silvia Gabriela is a professor. She's going to be presenting some comments on the module. and details of Professor Gabriela bio is in the chat, and she will be sharing with us some comments on the model of Ubuntu. Go ahead, Silvia. Alfonso, can you translate for Silvia?
Muchas gracias, George. Bueno, buenos días.
Thank you very much, George.
Go ahead.
Buenos días.
Good morning, everyone.
En principio quiero agradecer la invitación de Amílcar, de nuestro secretario general de Relapro. Es un honor estar acompañándolos, así que agradezco muchísimo por esta invitación a Aprocon. Y es un gusto volver a escuchar a Maximus. Él estuvo en Buenos Aires hace unos años, cuando tuvimos el segundo congreso de orientación en la universidad. Así que bueno, es un gusto siempre escucharlo y saber que tenemos muchas ideas en común. Sé que tengo pocos minutos, por lo tanto voy a ser muy breve. Quiero resaltar esta idea que...
Silvia,
¿sí?
we are translating for you. So give it por favor, Silvia, estamos traduciendo para ti. Entonces, dale tiempo a Alfonso para que pueda traducir al inglés tu presentación.
Perfecto.
Ok, entonces, Alfonso, you are on.
First of all, I want to say thank you to Amilcar for the invitation, and thank you, Maximus, for his presentation. I'm very glad to be here. I know that I have just a few minutes, so I will keep it up.
Bien, Maximus planteó esta necesidad del acceso para todos, del respeto a la diversidad, de la equidad, y yo quería traer que dentro de los 17 Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible, que en este momento están en las agendas de los distintos países, el Objetivo de Desarrollo número 4 nos habla justamente de una educación de calidad, equitativa, inclusiva, a lo largo de toda la vida para todos. Y creo que si nos atenemos a ese objetivo y al aporte que cada uno puede hacer, estamos en sintonía con esta propuesta que nos hace Max. Hoy se habló de la importancia de la narrativa, del respeto a la diversidad, de la escucha, de tener una mirada integral, de tener claro que si yo soy es porque los otros son, ¿no? El yo soy porque tú eres que se plantea desde el Ubuntu y que me parece que es la base de todo, que a partir de ahí solo nos queda construir. Por eso, tomando los distintos pilares del Ubuntu, en especial la empatía, el servicio, la confianza, quiero decir unas palabritas acerca de uno de los pilares, que es resiliencia, ¿no? La resiliencia
Silvia, stop for translation.
Silvia, wow. We want to follow you.
That was a lot. Oh my God. Yes, Maximus talked to us about resilience and diversity and education. And that's what I'm talking, that's what I wanna talk today, but specifically about resilience. Silvia, please, por favor.
La resiliencia es la capacidad que todos tenemos para afrontar las adversidades.
Resilience is the skill that we have to face challenges.
En los últimos 20 años trabajé desde el enfoque de resiliencia en orientación vocacional.
In the last 20 years, I work in the resilient approach counseling model.
Vocational counseling.
Vocational counseling.
Y la resiliencia se construye siempre en el vínculo con el otro. De ahí esta articulación desde la filosofía Ubuntu.
And we always build up resilience with the other. That is the philosophy of Ubuntu.
Pilares de resiliencia como el compromiso, el pensamiento crítico, la relación, por supuesto, con los demás, la iniciativa, son pilares fundamentales, pero también la creatividad. Y la creatividad se basa en el trabajo conjunto también.
Creativity, teamwork, commitment, and some of the pillars of resilience.
Bien, y ese trabajo colaborativo es lo que nosotros hoy, Día Internacional del Trabajo, estamos haciendo, ¿no? Pensando juntos.
It's a collaborative work, and we are doing it today, the International Day of Work, the labor.
El enfoque de resiliencia planteado desde la Organización Panamericana de la Salud tiene varios pilares, varios promotores. Pero hay uno en especial del que quiero hablar.
The resilience model proposed by Latin Americans have several pillars, but there is one that I want to emphasize.
Y es un pilar que he propuesto en este enfoque en orientación, que es el sostén recíproco. El sostén recíproco.
It is the reciprocal support.
Y tiene que ver con ayudar a otros y reconocer cuando necesitamos ser ayudados. Y en orientación
it
es fundamental.
It is about helping others and be aware when we need help. And this is critical in counseling.
Y como se plantea desde el Ubuntu, yo soy porque tú eres, necesitamos siempre de un otro para construirnos.
As we say in Ubuntu, I am because you are, we need each other.
Ese otro que puede ser familia, amigo, comunidad amplia, como fue planteado esta mañana.
The other can be a friend, family, or wide community, as it was expressed previously.
Por eso es tan importante esta mirada que se está planteando, que plantearon nuestros amigos hoy en estas exposiciones, porque lo fundamental en la orientación es lo que nos rodea, son quienes nos sostienen.
That's why it is so important what previous speakers said about the mutual support.
La escucha y el respeto por las creencias de quienes están formando parte de ese grupo. La escucha también implica la mirada, esta mirada de respeto hacia el otro.
It's about listening to the other and seeing the other in this listening approach.
Y creo que por eso es que hoy estamos escuchándonos, cada uno con su mirada, cada uno con su experiencia en su país, en su región. Y como son muy pocos los minutos, quiero leerles algo que es de 40 segundos nada más y que tiene que ver con lo que estamos haciendo aquí hoy, escuchando diferencias para encontrar similitudes.
That is what I see here today. We are listening to each other from our perspective. And I have a short script that I want to read.
Voy a leer algo que escribí que se llama Enhebrar con poesía y que está inspirado en una frase que se suele decir dentro de la filosofía Ubuntu, y es que somos ramas de un mismo árbol. Ama lo divergente.
Okay. Silvia, ¿tendrás esto escrito que me lo puedes enviar para yo leerlo?
Sí, lo voy a buscar.
O lo colocas en el chat, no importa en español, yo lo traduzco, pero lo tengo en el chat y lo voy leyendo.
Ya lo busco y lo comparto. Un segundito nada más. Es una, a ver, tengo una imagen, no sé si podré compartir la imagen en el chat, pero lo intento.
Sí, sí puedes compartir la imagen.
¿Sí? No. Un segundito. ¿Dónde está? No, no quedó. Bueno, lo puedo ir leyendo, si no, en partecitas. Sí. Y después
Sí.
Lo divergente porque aprende del empírico uso del debate.
Silvia, si te doy mi correo, ¿me lo puedes enviar allí?
Sí, por supuesto.
En el chat te estoy enviando mi correo, alfareto@gmail.com.
A ver. No lo veo. No, todavía no aparece.
No importa, te lo digo. ALF.
ALS.
ARR. ETO. Alfareto.
ALS, ARR, ETO.
No, F de Francia. América, Lima, Francia, América, Roma, Ecuador, Toronto, Orlando.
Alfareto.
Yes, correcto. @gmail.com. Me lo envía y yo dejo que tú lo leas y...
Perfecto. Listo, enviado.
Silvia, lo puedes leer completo y luego Al nos lo traduce. Gracias.
Bien. Enumerar con poesía. Ama lo divergente porque aprende del empírico uso del debate. Nunca fue un disidente, sin embargo, escribe por placer y por encargo cuando encuentra un motivo que le late en la letra imperfecta del vacío. Si algún fútil pragmático impaciente, crónico residente en el gris río de aparente e insólita respuesta, desoye la pregunta que se gesta en el silencio lógico del tiempo, él le pide que espere, simplemente. Ama lo divergente porque sabe que en cada diferencia está la clave para entender aquello que nos une. Somos ramas de un mismo árbol, planteado desde el Ubuntu. Es una alegría estar compartiendo este espacio donde todos tenemos ideas distintas y trabajamos para lograr unirlas. Muchas gracias.
Okay, I'm doing the translation. Just wait a second, please.
Mientras Alfonso traduce, pues quiero agradecer especialmente a Silvia y a Max por esta interesante presentación. Ustedes van a ver más adelante cómo aplicamos estos conceptos en el modelo. We are talking about, we are thank you to Gabriela and Max for this interesting presentation. And you're going to see at the video how we incorporate these topics, this important topic of Ubuntu and resilience at the transitional model of Relapro. Thank you. Go ahead, Alex, with the translation. Excuse me, another thing. Estoy dejando un saludo para los colegas de África en el chat. I'm sending to you a greeting for Africa College at the chat. Please read after this meeting. Thank you.
Alfonso, ¿está listo?
I'm working on it. Because this is poetry. This is
That is poetry,
so
yes.
it's not easy to to understand. I think I'm doing it. Just give me a few seconds, please. Wait, sorry.
Okay. So Alfonso is finishing out the translation in English of the poem. It's a poem. Amilcar, should we go to show the video now while Alfonso is getting
Yes,
ready?
please. Yes, please. This is the moment
Okay.
for a video. Please use earphone because maybe sometimes of the video is very low the sound. Please use earphone. Thank you.
The video integrate or several concepts from the Ubuntu to the in part of that is called the Latin American model for counseling guidance. So the video is in English.
I am writing the translation and copy the translation at the chat.
Philosophical basis on the ethics of the ends. This model establishes as a fundamental objective to facilitate the construction of the ethical sense of life understood as the development of community conscience. Intrapersonal and interpersonal conscience and lays its philosophical basis on the ethics of the ancestral cultures Abya-Yala, Ancestral America, and Ubuntu, Sub-Saharan Africa, applied mainly in the Guidance for Life in Community line. Its ontological and sociological bases are derived from the theory of human-scale development by the Chilean economist Manfred Max Neef. The main psychological bases are derived from the interpretations of Winnicott's biopsychosocial concept of transitionality, and his pedagogical bases from the basic Socratic maïetics applied in the pedagogical project. Synapsis, basis of the line of counseling and guidance for academic life. Based on several reflections by Julio González, Venezuela, 2011, main founder of Relapro, presented in various academic spaces, International Counseling and Guidance Conference in Costa Rica, 2015, and Origin of the journal, Orientación. About the need to create our own models of counseling and guidance, an epistemological vision from the Global South, contributed by colleagues from Uruguay among others. The analysis of results of 11 Latin American counseling and guidance surveys in which counselors from almost all Latin American countries that develop the field from different perspectives. Psychological, pedagogical, sociological, the papers presented to the Counseling and Guidance Conference. Approaches, Models, and Strategies of Counseling and Guidance in Latin America, Buenos Aires, 2017. The contributions of the base document for counseling and guidance in Mexico, 1993, and Towards a Latin American Model of Educational Counseling and Guidance. Master. José Nava Ortiz. Cultural elements taken from ancestral philosophies such as the African philosophy, Ubuntu, Max Cephatho, South Africa, and the Amerindian cultures of Abya-Yala, well living. Correlated with contemporary models of social development, capitalism and socialism. This model of educational counseling and guidance is built looking to respond to the social and educational needs of Latin America from the perspective of development on a human scale. Max Neef, 1993, which does not ignore the epistemological origins of the field. Parsons, 1903. Nor does it exclude European or other thinkers who are considered pertinent to the transitional counseling and guidance for the ethical sense of life model. The question then arises as one of the axes of research is constructed about the role and meaning that educational guidance needs to build in the 21st century. Taking into account these macrosocial factors mentioned. Max Cephetho contributes with the concepts of counseling and guidance for life that facilitates conceptually centering all the dispersed actions of the field and later contributes with elements of the Ubuntu philosophy. I am because I belong, I am in community. This base category, counseling and guidance for life, would later be subdivided in this model into counseling and guidance for community life. Changing the emphasis in the psychologist approach on individual factors, introspective, self-schemes, self-esteem, self-image, self-realization, and intrapersonal aptitudes and emotions that have been traditionally assumed as the primary aspect of the educational counseling and guidance. Due to the emphasis on the socio-community approach in accordance with the ancestral philosophies mentioned, Ubuntu and Ayala. This base category, counseling and guidance for life, would later be subdivided in this model into counseling and Ubuntu philosophy. I am because I belong, I am in community. This base category, counseling and guidance for life, would later be subdivided in this model into counseling and guidance for community life. Changing the emphasis in the psychologist approach on individual factors, introspective, self-schemes, self-esteem, self-image, self-realization, and intrapersonal aptitudes and emotions that have been traditionally assumed as the primary aspect of the educational counseling and guidance. Due to the emphasis on the socio-community approach in accordance with the ancestral philosophies mentioned, Ubuntu and Ayala. This base category, counseling and guidance for life, would later be subdivided in this model into counseling and guidance for community life. Changing the emphasis in the psychologist approach on individual factors, introspective, self-schemes, self-esteem, self-image, self-realization, and intrapersonal aptitudes and emotions that have been traditionally assumed as the primary aspect of the educational counseling and guidance. Due to the emphasis on the socio-community approach in accordance with the ancestral philosophies mentioned, Ubuntu and Ayala. In the category, Guidance for Academic Work Life, we include the topics of vocational, professional and socio-occupational counseling and guidance. as well as the transversal academic counseling and guidance designed for the qualification of transversal communication skills to the academic and work world, Synapsis Project. Counseling and guidance for interpersonal life, in this third category, will be included for its part without diminishing the importance of individual factors. The development of topics such as worldviews and emotions from the concept of attitudinal consciousness. However, in the search to transcend the mechanistic instrumentality typical of the field, we have proposed to philosophically base our work, delving into the fundamental concept of our model, life.
There are two ways to live life. One is to think nothing is a miracle, and the other is to think everything is a miracle. Albert Einstein.
We chose in this model to assume it from the human action as a transcendental and sublimable phenomenon.
Life is the transitional space back excellence, made of multiple areas of social learning which can be conceptually constructed as a transcendental phenomenon sublimable with an ethical meaning.
Regarding ethical reflection, we take from the ancestral Amerindian philosophy of the Abya principles of social coexistence, in accordance with high moral performances summarized as: do not lie, do not steal, and do not be idle, which are of vital importance both in the daily circumstances of interpersonal relationships and in work situations mediated by professional ethics. Evidenced in honesty in professional commercial relationships with the community that have an impact equally at the state and global level.
In a complementary way, we assimilate in this model the concept proposed by Maturana with respect to his definition of ethics as concern for the consequence that human actions have on others, associated with the acceptance of the other, included in the category of love, defined as the recognition of the other as a legitimate subject for coexistence.
With the purpose of clarifying the relationships between morals and ethics, we turn to Savater's reflections when he affirms that morality is the set of behaviors and norms that people and with similar thoughts generally accept as valid, while ethics defines it as the reflection on the validation criteria that we use and the comparison with other moral ones. We anchor this topic in this model in the concept of social conscience.
On the other hand, paraphrasing Edal Cortina from the definition of ethics by Maturana and Savater on the supracategory of development on a human scale, we agree with the proposition that at the global level it is a very time more evident the need for a universal concern for others, which guides economic, technological, and political processes, with criteria validated with others in the sense of authentic progress.
Another principle related to life, which we consider fundamental in this model, is this one which aims to propose intentionality and directionality for the life trajectories that can be undertaken.
Life can only be understood by looking back, but it has to be lived looking forward.
The Sankofa bird is not stuck in the past, as it keeps moving forward while looking back to take stock of the egg in its beak, which denotes the future. The construction of meaning of life implies accepting that the construction of meaning is produced through the transitional processes that are being experienced both in social life and in academic life.
Applying the principle of transitionality to education, we established that the most propitious moments to carry out counseling and guidance processes with humanly transcendental effects may be the transitional space between educational cycles, since the community is more sensitive to receiving information and training directed to qualify these processes.
On the other hand, with respect to the epistemological conceptualization of social life, we take as a basis the theory of human needs of the Chilean Manfred Max Neef, who states that life is structured based on existential universals needs or dimensions, being, to have plus to do plus to be, interrelated with the axiological evaluative needs, subsistence, protection, affection, understanding, identity, participation, creation, recreation, functionally differentiated from an infinity of satisfactory products of consumer society in which the people live. To life, for the very fact that it does not have it.
The meaning of life is not discovered, it is socially constructed. The fundamental objective of the transitional counseling and guidance consists of pedagogically advising human development in educational communities based on the existential construction of meaning.
Existential negotiation. Constructing meaning involves a process of existential negotiation between duty to be social and wanting to be personal to reach the power of being, seeking to fulfill all human needs.
Between to do what you want and to do what is due, there is the alternative of to do what you can. The need is of the order of power and production.
The realization of the axiological existential needs must be developed in a synergistic way, optimizing the limited vital resources of people for the construction of a long-term life project.
Faced with the question, where is it necessary to be, belong, or to mobilize to fulfill the axiological needs and build a sense of life, we propose the following postulate.
Life trajectories can be self-determined from broad characterizations of the potentialities and opportunities offered by base communities, based on the realization of the axiological existential needs in the short and medium term.
Based on the ethical, efficient, and effective administration of community resources that guarantee sustainability, the appropriate development of personal potentialities, and the relevant academic work tasks, life projects can be established that incorporate aesthetic functional principles of human ecology related to social responsibility.
Although it seems obvious that potential economic resources are necessary to develop life projects, it is considered even more of a priority to develop personal human potentialities and exhaustively explore the institutional opportunities of the base communities before establishing budgets on the construction of life projects and/or the tracing of specific trajectories.
In summary, we propose the meaning of life can be built from the three existential dimensions proposed by Magnef: to have plus to do plus to be, based on the ethical, aesthetic, self-determined, synergistic, and sustainable realization of the axiological existential human needs, based on the construction of solidary, ecologically sustainable life projects, and with social responsibility, in the search to be aware of the importance of the community that sustains us, to fully develop the personal academic labor potentialities translate as aptitudinal awareness, and to have interpersonal awareness that evidence the recognition of the incidence of personal worldviews in all areas of social life.
All right.
Ok, espero que haya sido claro. Disculpas por los volúmenes del video y la mala pronunciación en algunos momentos, pero esperamos que haya sido comprensible cómo integramos la filosofía Ubuntu, los principios de lo comunitario, este modelo latinoamericano que le dé muchísima George.
We hope that this video was clear and represent the integration of the Ubuntu philosophy in the construction of the Latin American model of counseling and guidance.
Dame un momento, discúlpenme, pero voy a presentar a Alberto Puerta. Alberto Puerta estaba llegando de Perú a Utah y le he pedido unos momentos antes de que él desembarque a su casa para que nos dé un saludo. Alberto Puertas es nuestro representante de Relaciones Internacionales y es peruano, vive en Estados Unidos, es counselor desde hace 35 años en Estados Unidos en la Universidad de Utah. Please, Alberto, welcome and thank you for being here. We understand this hard day. Thank you for being here for short minutes. Go ahead, please, in English.
Bueno, mis saludos solidarios a nuestros colegas africanos. Y para mí es un privilegio y un honor poder compartir estos espacios de vida con ustedes. My greatest gratitude to my colleagues from Africa, and I do truly appreciate you sharing times with us and sharing knowledge as well. I think our similarities are bigger than our differences, and our desire and our objectives to help others, to help the new generations, should be a common bound among Africa, Asia, Latin America, the US, it doesn't matter. So I'm just extremely honored to be sharing these minutes with you. I truly would like to stay a little longer, but I'm in the airport, so this is casual, and I haven't prepared a big speech other than to wish you the best. I know my colleagues in Africa are working against all odds. But again, our humanity brings us together, our desire to improve the lives of those we serve, I think, bind us together. Mis saludos a todos los colegas, un placer estar con ustedes, les deseo muchas bendiciones. Pienso que nuestras similitudes nos acercan más que nuestras diferencias, nuestras similitudes en cuanto a querer servir de la manera correcta a las nuevas generaciones, a poder dar de nuestras vidas en la vocación en que nosotros tenemos. Les deseo muchas bendiciones y éxito. Me disculpan, estoy en el aeropuerto, estoy llegando y saliendo, pero otra vez, que esta pandemia sea un momento de reflexión. Esta pandemia nos ha causado muchos estragos, sin embargo se va a ir. El ser humano se va a adaptar, pero las pandemias personales nunca nos van a dejar y esas sí tenemos que lidiarlas y lidiarlas bien en nuestra vocación, en el sentido de orientadores que se preocupan por las comunidades, que nos une el sentido de comunidad y de trabajo conjunto. Mis bendiciones y un buen día y éxito a todos. Gracias por este foro. Hasta luego.
Bueno, muchas gracias, Alberto. Saludos a tu familia. Sabemos que ha sido una jornada muy pesada. George, nos quedan unos minutos para comentarios finales, preguntas, sugerencias y dejar sentado un nuevo encuentro.
Yeah, we have a few minutes for comments, any recommendation, questions. We only have a few minutes. So I guess we need to prepare another encounter.
But George,
Yeah,
for the presentation I got from the brothers in Latin America, it seems emphasis is on the Ubuntu. Ubuntu, and Ubuntu seems to derive its origin from South Africa, if I'm not making a mistake. So I don't know, is that to say that our colleagues in Latin America have already domesticated Ubuntu as a model of counseling in that continent?
No, it's in the building up process right now.
Okay, building up process.
Yeah, okay. It's been researched. It has been doing several research around Latin America has been working on that and putting the results, and the model, that model you see is in the process of building up and is still thinking, rethinking. It's not a finished product. It's undergoing now.
Yes, okay. It's under construction. Please translate to us, George.
Yeah, I already did it. I already explained that, Milka. Ya lo expliqué.
But in Spanish, please.
Oh, Milka, you are pushing my brain hard today. Sí, el profesor sí, su pregunta era si ya el modelo estaba completado y mi respuesta fue que no, que está en construcción, que ha sido producto de varios años de investigación, que está en el pensarlo y repensarlo y se ha ido nutriendo a través del tiempo, que está en proceso, en ese proceso todavía de construcción, el proceso epistémico de construcción.
Sí, para eso quería complementar, les estamos invitando nuevamente a participar en esta investigación, que no es sobre nuestro modelo, es sobre los modelos que cada región necesita construir con base en su cultura.
Amilcar want to invite your team to participate in the research, because the research include that part of searching for models of counseling guidance around the world. So your voice could be incorporated also in developing different models for different regions.
Okay. Okay. help us. You know, Amika, we accept your invitation and we look forward to collaborating with you.
Muchísimas gracias, profesor Villaviso. Es un honor y un placer haber tenido este encuentro. Esperamos no sea el último, que esperamos sea el primero de muchos otros encuentros donde podamos compartir un poco más a fondo la fase final. Vamos a la fase final de implementación de este modelo. Que ustedes ven, ha tomado muchísimo de arte.
Thank you, Professor Yasibo, for want to participate in these research endeavors. And the model is going to go into experimental type of phase. So in that stage, we're going to have more work to do, I think.
Okay. I think I will need a formal invitation so that I can share with my membership and also be able to get those who are interested so that we can commence the collaboration.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. Right.
Okay. Do you get that, Milka?
No sé si hay algún otro comentario o alguien que quiera meter algo. No nos olvidemos de la solicitud de Gabriela de tomar una foto todos para la memoria.
Ok, pero deben estar, yo he estado grabando, pero deben estar todas las cámaras on.
Por favor, cámaras encendidas, please. Camera on to take a picture. Thank you.
We're gonna
Thank you to everybody.
We're gonna take a picture. Please go put your camera on.
Oh, me?
Everybody. No, I can see you.
Yes, I can see you too. I can see America. I'm not seeing others. Huh?
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Tina. Elsa Tobar, también gracias por estar en esta reunión. Gabriela, Silvia Carmona. A George por esta organización tan interesante. Okay, are you taking a picture, George?
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm using my backup system because I don't want to stop the recording.
Okay.
Alfonso, try to take a picture as well, please. All right, everybody, we're done for today. Amilka, did you send all the material to Oyasibo?
No, please send me all the material from Aprocon. It's very interesting, the presentation of Aprocon. I don't have it, and I have the presentation of Mac, of course, but it's very interesting. If you have a paper to send to us to publish our magazine, our journal orientation, please.
Okay. I will. Now what I saw something like maybe a former George. What I'm talking about a letter, maybe detailing all their America's intentions, so that I can advertise in our website and also inform on our platform, so that it makes it easier for me.
Okay.
Okay.
América, se necesita una carta de la invitación para participar en la investigación, de manera que él lo pueda hacer pública y pueda identificar cuáles serían los potenciales colaboradores que puedan involucrarse más rápido con el proyecto. ¿Okay?
That's right. We will send you a formal letter to invite to participate in this research.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Gracias.
Okay. Thank you, Alfonso and Bexabe, for your work. And
Chica, thank you. Chica, very interesting presentation, Chica. Thank you.
Chica, we didn't hear everything from you, but somebody helped, okay? Somebody
helped. I know it's a team work. Thank you for very interesting teamwork from Aprocon. Receive a great hug from us. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Happy Labor Day.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you for everyone.
Thank you.
Happy Labor Day for everyone. Thank you. Thank you,
very
George.
interesting. Thank you so much.
Max, Gabriela.
Massimo, thank you so very much.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next time. See you next time.
Okay.
Have a good day. Have a good day or a good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I hope this meeting will be a continuous one, not just one meeting and that ends it.
Yes, we are.
Yes,
here.
it has to
See
be. It
you.
has to
See you.
be.
Thank you for everyone. God
Okay.
bless you. God
Bye-bye.
bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.